Hello, and welcome to the fifth Fetter, and it's the first lesson. Before we start, I would like to say something to you. No one can ever frustrate you. And I would like to repeat, no one can ever frustrate you. Now, clearly, I'm trying to provoke you. I'm trying to poke to you in a way to see if you get a reaction. And it's because this lesson, it's kind of like a gatekeeper lesson that is making sure that you're ready to move on to the fifth fetter. Because the fifth fetter is about aversion, ill will, discontentment, dissatisfaction, resentment, envy, all the things that we don't want, all the qualities that we have in our everyday lives that we don't want to have. It's about all those feelings that we get when somebody's saying something in a certain way, when Jenny is controlling how you're supposed to chop the tomatoes or anything like that, how your mom is speaking to you and always correcting you, and all the things that your parents didn't do, and all the things that your siblings did do, and all of that. In the fifth fetter, you're going to realize that, first of all, none of that happened. And second of all, that it's completely fine. They are completely entitled to do what they did. And the only thing you need to do is look at you. And if you're not ready for that yet, if you feel in you that just by me saying that nobody can frustrate you, that your parents didn't do anything wrong, that the way that your ex treated you, there was nothing wrong with that. If you immediately get that contraction in your body, and you immediately can feel like she does not know what she's talking about, because my experience, what I went through, that was horrendous, She doesn't know what she's talking about. If that's what you feel, then watch this lesson and then go back and do the foundational fetters first. Because you need to be in a place where you are ready to work with the fifth fetter, where there's no obstruction, and when there is an obstruction, then you stay with that. Because every single time you feel ill will and aversion and anger and resentment and envy and all of that, every time you feel that, it's a reaction to something underneath that needs your attention. But instead of giving the attention where it's supposed to go, you divert your attention. So you divert it out on them needing to be different. He should speak to me in a proper way. He shouldn't be like that. She shouldn't do like that. Whenever you have that going on, that you believe that it's outside of you, that the issue is outside of you, it's a diversion. And what I would really like you to do is to acknowledge that. Acknowledge that, wow, I still need a diversion. I still can't stay with what is underneath everything. I still can't look at the underlying belief. I need to divert. It needs to be them who are wrong. And then really respect that. Work with it, Instead of being forceful and saying, no, I'm ready to the fifth fetter, and just be forceful about it. If you do that, it's going to be hell. It's going to be so painful. It's going to be so disturbing, so unsettling. And it doesn't have to be. Instead, when you enter and start to work with the fifth fetter, when you're ready, then it's only going to be transformative. Everything that you hear that we are talking about, it's going to be transformative. It's going to be settling itself in a space where there is space, where you can meet what needs to be met with love and compassion, and where you are in a place that you can set other people free, because you can't set people free as long as you still have something that needs to be looked at. Then it just becomes that toxic positivity, and then it just becomes bypassing. Oh, whatever happened in my childhood is fine because there is no I. That's bypassing. And there's still that little child in you that hasn't been met, that hasn't been heard. You still have reactions in your body that clearly needs to be met and that hasn't been met. So don't be forceful about it. Use this lesson as a gatekeeping lesson. Because we're going to talk about the 3 levels of deception that we do. And make sure that you really, really understand and see clearly where you're at. Pull yourself up to the 5th floor and look at it in a way where you can see that this is not anything that is against you. On the contrary, this is something that is creating space for you, creating space for what really, really needs your attention, creating space for what really needs to be felt. Because that's another thing. We can't finish the lower 5 fetters. We can't finish that and move into the higher 5 until everything has been felt. And that everything that is coming up is allowed to come up and allowed to be felt. As long as you struggle against something, as long as you believe that someone outside of you can create an issue in you, then you're not creating the space, the physical space that your body needs to be felt. Whatever emotion and feeling comes up needs to be felt. And that is what we're going to look into with this lesson. The thing is also that where you're at now, you have had about the bubble of reality. The next lesson is the 2nd part of the bubble of reality. You have had about the bubble of reality. You have had about the starting point and the toxic starting point. By now you know that everything is about you. Every time you open your mouth, say something to other people, it's about you. Every time you hear somebody saying something, you know that you do not hear what they say. You hear what you think they say. Which means the ears are on you, you're still reacting to you. So there's nowhere to hide. Right now you know that. There's nowhere to hide. You know that whatever you think about your parents is a reflection on how you see you. Whatever you fight with Janice about or your partner about, my partner is not showing me enough love and compassion. Are you sure about that? Are you sure it's about your partner? Are you sure about that? You're standing and speaking to a mirror. You are not showing me enough love and compassion, you say to the mirror. You know that now, which means that there's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to hide. And it's also why this lesson is important, to kind of give an indication of where you are at. How can you work with what is alive in you right now and what is an issue in you right now? How can you address that in the most loving, compassionate and kind way? So you really are able to dig into what needs to be held. How can you implement this into your life so it's into a lived experience? And to do that, you need to be in a place where you have a solid foundation. And as I said, there's nowhere to hide. If you have done all the lessons up until now, you know that there's nowhere to hide. And it's that realizing. Remember with the 10 pointers in the 4th fetter that we talked about, that even if, then it's fine. Even if they always stab me in the back, it's fine. Even if they never show me any kind of love and compassion and kindness, it's fine. That even if, it's important to be able to be in the world where that is the case, because people are allowed to be who they are. You're not here on the planet to dictate towards other people how they should be. I had a Q&A, I think it was last week, where we talked about that. The importance of being able to be everything. And I'm not saying that you should go out and kick puppies. It's not something like that, and cheat and, be a twat. It's not what I mean at all. But putting yourself in a position where you can understand where people are coming from. So it's with empathy that you understand, yeah, I recognize that. I recognize that frustration that leads to that kind of anger. Or if it's something that is so, like a mass shooting that is happening, what would you need to have gone through? What would you have need to have gone through to do and act like that? And then have compassion for it. So people are allowed to be in the world the way that they are in the world. There's nobody who needs to change anything. And even if we say that they're supposed to change and be any different, what template are they supposed to live by? A forced template? How about we sort ourselves out? How about all of us work towards our own awakening and can be in the world with compassion and empathy and love and kindness towards ourselves? And when you can do that, then it's very, very easy to be in the world with compassion, love, and empathy for everyone else. Everyone are allowed to be the way that they are. Who are we to know what leads to their freedom? And if you are in situations where there are super toxic people or dangerous people, then withdraw yourself. Make sure that you're in safety. But do not try to change anyone. Do not try to enable anyone. Do not try to be in a way where they now have the chance to be a good person, because that is conditional. They are allowed to be who they are. You sort you out. You do you. And whatever works for you and makes you meet you with love and compassion and kindness, that's what you're supposed to do. And it might sound like I'm giving like a green card to selfishness and egotistical behavior. And for some people it might be. I mean, if you have sacrificed yourself your entire life, then it might be time for you to try, do the pendulum swing. Get to the other side of it. Try out to be in that room for a while. And when you do that, people are not going to like it, for sure. I had a patient many years ago, an elderly lady, and she was completely burned out. She was so exhausted and tired. And when we started to look into what it was about her doing everything for the entire family. Grandchild calling her at 3 a.m, needed to be picked up because they didn't want to pay for a taxi home. And obviously she went out and picked them up. And she was baking Christmas cakes and cookies. That's a big thing in Denmark for Christmas. And she was baking that for the entire family. And it cost her a fortune to do. And it took the better part of November and December to do that for the entire family. And we talked a lot. I was working a lot about that, showing that compassion and kindness towards herself. And what she said always was that, but I need to be in the world the way and treat other people the way that I want them to treat me. And it's true, you should. But make sure that you are towards you first, Make sure that you are towards you the way that you want other people to be towards themselves. And she stopped picking up the grandchild, and she stopped baking Christmas cookies for everyone, and her family was furious. because she didn't accommodate anymore. It even went to the point that some of her family members came to my clinic, knocked on the door, and they were so furious. What had I done to her? And all she had done was just say no. No, do not call me at 3 a.m. to pick you up. If you can go out and party all night, you can pay a taxi home. No, not baking Christmas cookies for everyone. I rather want to go to the Canary Islands and enjoy December. And of course the family didn't like that. Of course they didn't. She bloomed all her pain issues that she had in all her joints, all the things that she came to me, as a naturopathic doctor to get sorted out. It completely disappeared without medication, because that wasn't the issue. It wasn't the issue. It was her body telling her, stop, please. And for the first time in her life, she stepped into her. She stepped into her life, into her character, and the family obviously didn't like it. So it's not going to win you a popularity contest if you are one of those self-sacrificing people. But so far, you're not really winning any contest by being self-sacrificing. And I really hope you hear me, I'm not talking about becoming another twat. It's just only doing, where your body, yes, is there. Where you have that expansive energy and you want to do it, and it's unconditional. In the example with the elderly lady, it was in some sense conditional, because she did all that for them so they would be happy, instead of looking into what would make her happy. It's her life. What would make her happy? And if that is you, then I would recommend you to go back. Start by the first Fetter, in the first lesson. Start over again. Hear it with completely new ears. Make notes. Get a guide. Come to the groups and work with it. And really, really look into it. And if it's the other way around, that you have so much anger and you have so much resentment towards other people, and you feel that if you're not putting your foot down, you will just be a doormat, then it's the same. It's just, with a minus in front. It's the same. You are so detached from where you are, from your body, from what you feel, that you think that you need to battle everyone in order to be in the world, that there's actually something to defend. There's actually something, to put the foot down about. Look into that. It's trauma talking. Follow that breadcrumb into where it is the trauma is talking. What is it that you're trying to tell yourself? Your body is telling you all the time. Just listen. What is it that your body is trying to tell you? And when you have reached the point where people are allowed to be in the world the way that they are, and you can actually appreciate it, If somebody is super, super selfish and cutting you in traffic, it's fine. They're probably in a rush. It's fine. Hope they get home safe. If somebody is, cheating and lying to you, it's okay. Even if, remember. So even if somebody is lying and cheating towards you, what would you have to go through to do that towards other people? And if you have that, I would never ever do that. Then you just have a different set of values. And again, I'm not saying that you should encourage people to cheat and lie and treat you horrendously. If you do that, look into why. Look into why that was what you heard. Of all the things I said, that was what you heard. Look into what that is pointing to. Let the trauma talk. What is that pointing to? So entering the fifth fetter, that is where you pull yourself up to the fifth floor and look at all the anger, ill will, aversion, resentment, dissatisfaction, annoyance, irritation, everything you have. And you look at the finger pointing at you. Every time you point your finger at other people, it's just a diversion. You're actually talking about yourself. They are allowed to be in the world the way that they are. Look at you, sort you out. It's also that if everything I just said really, poked on a bruise in you, or really, really hit a sore spot, and you sit and feel just by me saying this that you have like list of things already written down with all the things that is coming up. Keep writing it down. Keep writing down. Don't hold yourself back, because it's pointing at something very, very important. It's pointing at something. It's pointing at a trauma, something in you that needs your attention, that needs your compassion. There's something in you that still needs to be acknowledged, accepted, and understood. And all of it is pointing into the same thing, into the trauma. Let the trauma talk. It's pointing into the same thing. That in you needs compassion. That in you is a part that you have tried to resist and hide away and cover up in lots of different ways. Look at that. Look at that. It just had, it was just unmasked for a very, very short time. Write it down. Look at that. It's super important. And it's because there's still parts of you that needs to be loved and accepted and created space for. Yeah. So all the things I just said, if something was triggered in you, if you had a reaction with any of the things that I just said, then you're not going to like working with the fifth fetter. Because when I say no one can frustrate you, no one can aggravate you or annoy you or make you irritated, that's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. Only you can. If you feel that ignition of something, that is important to look at. Because there are parts of you that has been suppressed, and that part needs to be felt. So we're going to go through the 3 layers of deception now. And in the first one, that's where everything we have worked with so far is being summed up. And it's basically what is happening with the fifth fetter. Everything you have learned until now, it's being summed up. Everything is coming into play. And if you haven't integrated the part that we have talked about, then that will be very, very apparent for you now. Which is a great thing. We're not in a rush in any way. So go back and work deeper with what needs to be felt. And it's about feeling it in the body. It's about really, really making contact with what is it that needs to be felt. What is it that needs your awareness? So the more you get poked at and the more you feel, the better. Allow that feeling to happen and allow that to get to the surface. Do not try to be, the good awakened student that has no issues whatsoever. You're not doing anyone any favors by that. Instead, allow what is. Really allow what is. And whatever thought you get about something, be curious to that thought. Where's that coming from? So it's not that the thought is important. It's not what the thought is telling you that is important, or it's not what the feeling is telling you that's important. It's the attachment to that's important. What are your subconscious trying to tell you? What is the trauma trying to tell you? And and looking at it without any kind of, arms or any kind of layers of protection, but just look at it. There's nothing dangerous or wrong in it at all. It's there already. So just look at, what is it pointing at? If you have that, I can't be a complete doormat. Who said anything about a doormat? Who said anything about being completely helpless? Who said anything about being vulnerable? If those are the feelings that you get, write them down. If you feel unprotected, who said anything about that? Why is that what you're hearing? If you hear that, oh my goodness, if I'm like that, people are going to hate me, they're going to leave me. Who said anything about that? Where did that come from? That is what needs your awareness and your attention. That is what needs to be looked at. Why do you think that? Why do you think that people will leave you if you're not baking Christmas cookies to everyone? Why do you think people are going to walk all over you if you're not shouting at random strangers in traffic? What makes you believe that is true? That's super, super interesting. Look into that. It's just a thought. It's an utter lie. It's an utter lie, and it's just a diversion. But what is that diversion pointing to? In you, what is it pointing to? What is it that needs your attention? And look into that. So what we're going to do now is to look at the 3 layers of deception. And the first layer is very much just like we do in therapy, that we look at the trauma, we look at what the underlying belief is about. You spend time with feeling it in the body and having it integrated, making contact with it. All that is normally happening in a therapy session. But the big difference is that you don't believe in the story. You know it's just a story. By now you know it's just a story, right? So you know it's just a story. You know that it's a pattern of habituated pattern that you have. It's a special way of viewing the world that is a result of your conditioning and a result of your underlying beliefs, which means that we do not talk about the story. The story is irrelevant. It's what the story is pointing at. What is the underlying belief behind the story? If there's not a separate self and there's no one to defend, what is it that this story is pointing at? So don't spend time with the story about, oh, my mom, oh, my dad, and all that. Never mind that. But what is it pointing at? Underneath the story about your mom and your dad being, absolutely not equipped to be parents, underneath that story, what is that pointing at? Where did that leave you? What did you learn as a child when you grew up? Did you learn that you need to earn your keep? That you need to make sure that everything around the family is okay for it to work? Did you need to be the joker of the family? Did you need to snub downwards? Did you need to? There's so many different things that we were taught in our family. And if you spend time on the story, you're missing the point. Like we talked about in the first Fetter, that whatever you believe was the past, it wasn't the past. It's just what you have placed post-its about to be the past. So sitting and talking about the post-its, it doesn't do anything. Look underneath that. How does it feel in the body? What memory is it that the body is reminding you of? So when you feel a contraction, for example, I have to be angry, like Teddy was talking about in the interview that I did with him, where he talked about that exoskeleton that he had around him. That protection needed to be there. He needed to protect himself. Otherwise, he would, be eaten raw. The story about how he reached that point where that was his belief is not that interesting. The interesting part is, what does he do with that today? How is he protecting himself today? How is he choosing to live his life today? How is that story being lived out in his everyday life today? Um, so the story is not interesting. What the story is pointing at and how you are choosing to live your life today because of the story, that is super, super interesting. That's super interesting. And that is what we're going to look at. So this is the 3 layers of deception. The first layer is the underlying belief that is, creating the starting point or the toxic starting point. So we have an underlying belief about how it is to be in the world, how it is to be me, what I need to do or not do. And the emotional indicators of fear, anger, guilt, and shame, they're believed to be truth. And that is the first level that we need to look at. That is the first deception that we need to look through. Like I just talked about, that it's not so much the story that is interesting, it is what the belief is about the story that's interesting. So the emotional indicators, when we believe that we are fearful and we believe that we need to defend ourselves with anger, and we are so shameful about the person that we are trying to act out and be in the world in a certain way for us to be accepted, or we feel so guilty about things that happened or didn't happen, all that, when we believe that to be true, then there's more to stay with. There's more that the body needs for you to feel. So let's say that you have experienced something in your life that has been super, super shameful. And you have now an idea about that you have to hide who you are, because who you are is super, super shameful. As long as you believe that shame to be truth, you're not going anywhere, because you believe in the story. If you instead can pull yourself up, so you look at the shame from the 5th floor and see that that is just a label. What is the body telling you? I feel a contraction in my chest. I feel the need, to hide who I am. I feel the need to, for people not to see me. How does it feel to be in a body where people don't see you? How does it feel to be in a body where you need to hide? How does that feel? And can you be in a body where that is what is happening right now? Can you stay with that? We're looking into that in a second. The second layer of deception is about the bubble of reality, and how it influences all the perceptions and all the assumptions. And we're going to talk much, much more about that in the next lesson. It is literally that when you have had the next lesson about the bubble of reality, you're done with believing that anything from the outside has anything to do with you. It has to do with you in the sense that you say that to you, but it's not anything that they do. And the last of the deceptions, it's not something we can work on yet, because it's part of the 5 higher fetters. And it's about seeing through the perception and the assumptions of reality. And when I say reality, it's because the 6th fetter, which is the first one in the higher 5s, the 6th fetter is completely removing everything that you, at this point, believe to be reality. But for you to start to work with the higher 5s, this needs to be sorted first. And again, I'm pointing to the first part of the deception, that you believe the story. You believe that you are full of fear, anger, guilt, and shame. You have that underlying belief about who you are, what your family was, who you are in the workplace, how your boss is, how your neighbors are, how the politicians are, how, all the things that are happening in the world, how that is, how other people are, all of that. You believe that to be true. You believe your opinion to have any importance. And that is believing in the story. That is believing in the story. I would like for you to reach a point where you know that the story that you have, it's just pointing towards a trauma that needs your attention. So when you say none of the politicians are to be trusted, what did you say? What did you say? None of them are to be trusted? No, they're not. They're so greedy, only thinking about themselves. Really, really interesting. I hope you can hear it. By now, you should be able to hear it. That you need to look at that. You need to look at that. I'm sure that the politicians believe that they are to be trusted. Their mums probably do. Their partners probably do. Maybe the kids even do. And people who you perceive as super, super greedy, they rarely perceive themselves as greedy. They are more likely to perceive that they're getting what's theirs. So that means that it's just an opinion. It's just an opinion. It's just your opinion. It has no valid foundation at all. And the story about it is not relevant at all for the politicians or anyone outside of you. It's relevant for you. It's relevant for you. So what does that mean for you? That you perceive other people to be like that? That you perceive other people and things outside of you to be in a certain way? What does that say about you? And I'm not pointing fingers at you. I really, really hope that you hear that. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm inviting you to hear that everything you perceive as truth is only true to you. And it's only true to you because of your story. You don't have to believe the story, but look at what the story is pointing at. Where is that recognizable in your life? What is it in you that needs to be met with love and compassion? That then will, as a result, dissolve that story. What part of you needs love and compassion? So that resentment you have towards politicians is dissolved. They are allowed to be in the world the way that they are. The way that they want to go about and do in their life is completely fine. They do them, you do you. So what do you need to acknowledge about you for them to be in the world the way that they are? If you're not, the elected policeman of the world, the moral police of the world, if you weren't elected for that position, how can you be in the world where other people are okay to be who they are? So what do you need to have an insight about? How can you meet that with love and compassion so you sort you out, so other people can be who they are? Yeah, that's the first part of the deception. So if you look at all those things that you have beliefs about, I am unworthy, the world is a dangerous place, I need to protect my boundaries, all billionaires are assholes and selfish, homeless people shouldn't have a mobile phone, all of that. If you look at all of that, what is that saying about you? What is all that pointing towards? What is it in you that needs to be in place? And it's a pit of lack. I cannot, if you haven't discovered yet, it's a huge pit of lack. Something is lacking. Something needs to be filled up, fulfilled and filled up with love and compassion and kindness. All that needs to be filled for you to be okay with everything. When you're okay with everything in here, you can only see the world as okay. That is fine. It's completely fine. And this is where it really and this is where it's really important for you to have worked with the toxic starting point, and work, if you have a foundation, sometimes in the aggressive bully, other times in the passive aggressive bully, other times in the chameleon, whatever you believe to be true, you need to work with that. You need to be compassionate and loving towards that, for you to be able to work with it, so you're not bypassing in any way, because it needs to be felt. Whatever thought you have, allow the thought to be there. Do not try to push it away in any way. Allow the thought to be there. Feel into your body. How does it feel to be in a body with that thought? How does it feel for me to be in the world right now with that thought? Make it grow bigger, 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 bigger. And detach the thought. And just stay with the feeling. What is it right now that needs compassion, love, and kindness? What is it right now that I need to bring my focus into? What story is it that is pointing at something in me, in a trauma? What is it that's pointing at? It's the same story all the time. It's pointing at the same thing all the time. What is it that is pointing at? What is it that needs your attention? And you go with that, and you just allow it to be there and fill it up, and fill yourself with love, compassion, and kindness toward what it is. And when it's ready to be released, you have filled it up. You don't need to remember that it was 7th grade and it was my mom and dad and it was all of that. It's not relevant. The story is not relevant. The conclusions that you made based on the story is relevant, because that is what you're living with today. And that is what needs your love and compassion. So it's very much about getting out of your head, into your body, and feeling it, allowing it to be there, and just feel it. It's also that realizing that we give the mind so much credit. I mean, what the mind is supposed to do is collect information based on the senses. So what I see and hear and smell and taste and feel, that is what is being collected, and this body or this meat suit perceive that to be reality, right? Like right now, I'm sitting and talking to you, but you're not here. In my mind, you're here. In my mind, we're having a conversation, and you might even feel that I'm sitting and talking to you right now. But in your right now, I'm probably sleeping or doing groceries or my laundry or going for a walk, So it's that you can use the mind for that, for what it's supposed to do, picking up on all the sensory experiences, making that into a reality. That is what the mind can do. The mind can tell you not to step out in front of a van and go to the dentist when you need to. That's what you can use the mind for. But because the mind is also creating, the other layer of our perception. For example, when your eyes are seeing, your eyes are not seeing 3D. Your eyes are seeing 2D. The 3D aspect is a layer that the brain is adding to it. It's not something that is there. It's not what the eyes are perceiving. And it's not the eyes perceiving, it's the brain perceiving. But that extra layer that the mind is adding to things, that's also why if I am asking you right now to look to your right, and whatever you see there, notice that. You're not really seeing it, you're recognizing it. That's why when we do the exercise where you're sitting and look at something, you suddenly notice things that you didn't notice before. Because you didn't see it. You only recognize it. Just like when you're reading, you're not reading every word, you're recognizing the words. And that's what the mind is really, really good at. But just like you can't have your accountant do your teeth, or a Michelin chef doing a double bypass, you can't have the mind. You can't use the mind for the things that we want, that we are using the mind for. You can't have a thought about Janice and believing that thought to be true. You don't know anything about Janice. You know what you think about Janice. You know what your mind think about Janice. You can have conversations and arguments in your head about Janice. That is your mind arguing with your mind. It's arguing with itself. Janice is not even there. But it's preparing you for Monday morning when you're going to the office and you're so going to tell Janice that now enough is enough. She didn't have anything to do with any of that. That's all you. That's the part you can't use the mind for. And that is what we're detaching when we see through self. And you realize that whatever the mind is telling you, it's just habitual pattern. It's not true at all. Just like any feeling you have, it's not true. It's a sensation in the body, and then you have attached a post-it to that sensation. That is what we call a feeling. And if we keep having that post-it over and over and building on that over and over, it becomes an emotion. So we're not even talking about the sensation in the body anymore. We're talking about the post-it. And that's why it's so important to allow it to get bigger and bigger and bigger in the body. Detach the post-it and just stay with sensation in the body and see where it takes you. You have no idea. You have no idea. And that level of curiosity is super, super helpful when we're working with the fifth fetter. So I would like for you to let the story talk. Don't believe the story, but look at what it is the story is pointing at. What is the underlying belief? And that underlying belief is your starting point. That is relevant. That is where every single morning you wake up, that is how you view yourself and the world. That is what you perceive other people with. That is how you go about in the world with that underlying belief. And that needs to be looked through. Ask yourself, can I be in a body that? Fill in the blanks. And that's the first deception. So, the second part of the deception is about understanding the bubble of reality and how it influences your perception and your assumptions about reality. And that is literally that every thought you have, everything you hear yourself say, every opinion you have about other people, everything you think you hear or you think you see other people do, you take it back here. It's a mirror. It's your bubble of reality and it's a mirror. You're looking into the mirror when you say, Janice is so unkind. Janice is so unkind. You're Janice, right? You are so unkind. When you say, my parents never ever showed me any kind of consideration. I never show myself any kind of consideration. Your partner, you never ever show me any kind of love. You never ever show me any kind of love. Everything is a mirror. Everything is a mirror. I heard about somebody that has a friend that's bipolar. And while she was standing and speaking with her friend, she had that reflection. How am I bipolar? What is my bipolar part? How is that me? I have had another one in a group that had huge issues with her body. She had this really body dysmorphia that she was so sure that she was much bigger than she was, and she's been fighting with diets and exercise and everything to gain a certain size in her body. She started to, every time she saw a person that was really, really obese, she would think, that's me. That's me. When she saw a skinny person, she was thinking, that's me. That's me. And it's about acknowledging that what you notice is a reflection on what is going on in you. If you go through life and you don't notice anybody ever, and you don't have any opinions about how people are in the world, they can be, whatever they want to be. That creates space for them to be who they are. And it allows them to be free so they can find their freedom. Who are we to know what makes other people see through self? You know? You didn't know that you would end here. And this was what you were gonna do, to see through self. You didn't know that. So really, really be humble to the bubble of reality. And we're gonna talk much more about the bubble of reality next time. Until next time, I would like for you to really see everything as a mirror. I would like for you to go back to the second Fetter and the fourth lesson that's about the bubble of reality. That's the first part of it. And then next time we're going to have the second part of the bubble of reality. But already now, really, really start to look at what is it you're telling yourself all the time. And don't believe the story. I hope I have emphasized that enough now. Don't believe the story. Look at what the story is pointing at. That is the trauma that needs your attention. That is what you need to sit with. And that is what you need to allow being there and create space for to be there. So you allow it to be in your body, and then you detach the label of it and just see where that takes you. And no matter what comes up, you meet it with love and compassion and kindness. So until next time, truly know and own that you're only ever speaking to a mirror. And stay with the feelings and emotions and sensations in the body instead of diverting into the thought. Everything is a mirror. And you can only ever project into the outside whatever you perceive to be reality on the inside. And that's also why the sentence for the fifth fetter is, look in the mirror, what do you see? You can only ever see things happening in the world if you recognize it on the inside. So whatever is going on the inside is what you're projecting into other people in the outside. So really look in the mirror. Until next time, look in the mirror. What do you see? I think that was it. If you're not ready to move on with the fifth fetter, when I say nobody can ever frustrate you, and if this lesson has been immensely frustrating, then come to the Q&A. Come to Vince's Sunday group. Come to the inquiry group that we have on Tuesdays. Speak with your guide. Go to Liberation Unleashed, LU, and get a guide. Write that you need a guide that is working with the Awakening curriculum. And know, truly, truly know that there's nothing wrong with you. You're fine. You're fine. I think that was it. Thank you.